Hi everyone. Today is going to be an interesting episode on the channel. I know I say that all the time, but it really is. I hope you've checked out my previous episode where I talk about how to use Themis to pass the bar exam. I share all the secrets, everything that I did in passing the exam with Themis. But in this episode, I'm going to be doing something different. I'm going to be interviewing someone who has coached a lot of foreign trained lawyers in passing the bar exam. As a matter of fact, she coached me when I was at the University of Washington preparing for the bar exam using Themis, right? And so this is someone who has coached several foreign trained lawyers and has, helped them with tips and strategies on passing the bar exam using Themis. And so I believe this episode is for you. LLM students, a lot of you come here and the dream is to practice law here in the US. So I don't see why you should be missing this episode. If you want to know about mistakes and challenges LLM students face when preparing for the bar exam, mistakes that LLM students make, how to make sure you don't make those mistakes, how to use Themis to pass the exam. I mean, I wish I had access to this type of content when I was preparing for the exam, but I didn't. But here I am providing it to you. So please enjoy the rest of this episode. I really want you to focus in on the things she says about how to use Themis to pass the exam and how that can be your story, your own success story, just like mine. All right, folks, let's jump into the rest of the episode. Hi everyone, welcome to today's episode of US LLM Tips, and today is going to be a wonderful episode because I have with me Melissa Shaw. I'm sure you guys have probably seen my previous episode where I talked about Themis and how I use Themis to pass the exam, and that has been one of the stories that I've shared so many times on the channel, but now I get to have a better and a bigger conversation with someone from Themis who helped me. Guys, just think about this, who helped me how many years ago? A couple of years ago when I was preparing for the bar, and so her support and all the questions, and actually she had so many answers and all. I can't even, I'm just thinking about it and it's a lot. But we have with us here Melissa Shaw, who is going to be taking us through some of the questions that I've gotten a lot from a lot of you about using Themis and how to pass the bar exam, because she actually provides that support. So without much ado, we will be jumping right into this episode and we'll be, having this conversation with Melissa. Hi, Melissa.
Hi, IJ. Thank you so much for having me. I'm honored to be here and answer your questions about Themis, and particularly excited to reconnect with you after so many years of you being out in the world. I'm super happy that you are where you are and on your way practicing law, done with the bar exam.
Yeah, that's amazing. Thank you so much. So we're going to jump right into it because we have a ton of questions for you, and not just all the people who follow this channel, right?
Yep.
I guess first question will be just tell us about what you do at Themis and about yourself. Like tell us about that.
Sure. I have been in the bar review industry for 30 years this year, which makes me very old. But I love what I do because I can help students get through a very difficult time and try to make it as easy as possible to get you passing the bar exam and on to practicing law. Mm-hmm. I started out my career right after law school in bar prep. I worked for Barbary for 19 years. And then I left and I went to teach at the University of Washington Law School and developed a program there for foreign trained attorneys who were getting their LLM degree. At the University of Washington, there's about 100 students there, all in different programs. And I created an early bar prep for credit class that still exists today. IJ is familiar with that class. And it was super successful and still continues to be because of the things that we put in place. And I can talk about that in a little bit. And then I left to join Themis when I had the opportunity and continued teaching that class adjunct for several years. And then just stopped in the last few years to focus only on Themis. And I'm on the team of attorneys that work with foreign trained attorneys and LLMs to help them pass the bar with Themis. I've been with Themis for 10 years now.
It's amazing. And that is what makes you perfect for this interview, right? The fact that you provide that support to foreign trained attorneys. And to be honest, I really benefited from that experience, and so that's why I feel like this will be very helpful to people who are either on the fence or whether Themis is the best option for them as LLM students, or who are currently using Themis right now and they're trying to figure out, okay, how does this work for me, right? So my next question will really be, what are the challenges? We're jumping right into what the challenges are. So, what are the challenges LLM students face when preparing for the bar exam? So, that's the first leg of the question. And then the second leg of the question is, why is Themis a great option for LLM students?
Sure. So I myself was an international student when I was in law school. I studied law in Argentina, and my focus in law school was international studies. So LLMs are dear to my heart, and I love everything about learning about other countries and primarily the difference between the legal systems. And I think that's one of the first things that makes it difficult. Actually, that's twofold. Number one, language. Luckily, my program in Argentina was all in English with very little in Spanish, even though I spoke Spanish fluently. And I think also just the difference in the legal systems. If you're from a civil law country, it's difficult to wrap your head around the common law system, and particularly for exams. So students that are used to civil law are used to A plus B equals C. And as we all know, for the common law system, it is a bunch of arguments, and there is no really clear-cut answer. It just depends. And the bar exam is a different animal from law school. Most people who've been through the bar exam know this. I know you do, IJ. It's very different than law school, and also extremely different from other countries' bar exams. And I think through the years when I've taught international students and foreign trained attorneys, that's one of the things that I've heard a lot from students is that how different this bar exam is from the bar exam in their own country. And so I would say those are my two top difficulties for foreign trained attorneys. That is language and learning all these subjects in a different language with different legal terms that you've never learned in your English classes. And then number two, the civil law versus the common law system. And for the bar exam, translating that into what a passing answer would look like. That's where Themis really comes in, is helping you learn what a passing answer looks like and helping you with the skills to present that passing answer so that you get through the bar exam. You can know the law backwards and forwards, and you can still fail this bar exam if you do not know how to get the points. And I think that's something that LLMs are surprised to learn, that it's not just about memorizing the books. Yeah. In fact, that's the first thing all LLMs want to do is take those substantive law outlines and just do that and just go through that and memorize that and do the practice later. And that is definitely the wrong way to do it. It's a great way to start if you have a long time. So if you're in our Themis year-long program, you do have more time to do that. But it's definitely not the right way, I think, to really study for the bar exam, because the bar exam we talk about as being like a mental marathon, in that you do a little bit of training every day. You have, depending on what state you're taking, I myself am licensed in California and Washington, but there are many states that are different. Most follow the UBE model now. Some have their own state law requirements. Nevada is one of the states that I run that has that requirement. So really it's about learning the right law, learning what's heavily tested, and learning what you need to know to pass in small increments. I would say the other barrier for foreign trained attorneys is time. And really, you're all very, very smart, accomplished people, or you wouldn't be doing this. It's a monumental thing to take on a foreign bar exam in a foreign language. And so time is really what you need more than anything else. You're competing with JDs who have usually had the majority of the subjects on the bar exam. They might be missing 3, maybe 4, but foreign trained attorneys haven't had more than 3 of the subjects, sometimes only 2 of the subjects on the bar exam. And the UBE, for example, has 15 subjects, depending on how you count them. And it's just a lot. So I would say it's time, and starting early is the most important thing for LLMs, and one of the biggest challenges that you all face, mainly because, some of you have visas, and so you have to take it in the summer. You might not be able to take it the following winter. And so planning ahead is something that I help LLMs do. There are 3 directors at Themis that really deal with all the LLMs. I talk to LLMs and foreign trained attorneys on the West Coast, along with Brian Sachs, who talks mostly to the foreign trained attorneys taking the California bar. And then Carl Gillian is our other director, who's on the East Coast, and he talks to the students that are taking the bar exams on the East Coast. And we all advise the students on what would be best for them, which program might be best for them. So I would say those are really my top barriers. I have mentioned language, common law versus civil law, time, and then how Themis can help students is just really taking you through that. So that will start with advising on which program would be best for you. We have videos that walk you through. We have brochures. I'm happy to send that all to anybody who has any questions about our program. You can go to the Themis website as well and click on LLM / foreign trained attorneys, and all our program is listed there. There's testimonials from students, all sorts of information to help you discern what you think would be the best path forward for you.
Thank you so much, Melissa. I think that was very comprehensive. And I really like what you said about a passing answer, because that's something that I feel like a lot of LLM students struggle with. We are very good in memorizing the law.
Yes.
And chewing it and being able to pour it out. But I think preparing for any bar exam in the US has to be very strategic. It's very different from the law school exams.
Yes.
And so really learning, and I interviewed someone previously on the channel. Her name is Apuva, and something she said about using Themis to pass the exam was that Themis is not complicated. It's very straightforward. You get the answers are clean. It's a very clean way to prepare for the exam, because you're just giving what you need to pass. Yes. Right? You're not giving unnecessary information. You're giving what you need to pass and nothing more. And so I think that's something that you really highlighted in that response. Okay, so my next question would be pass rates. This is something that I'm not sure that people are aware of, or that I'm aware of. But what are I don't know if you have that information, but what are the pass rates for LLM students who have used Themis in the past?
So we actually don't publish pass rates for LLM students. And that's mainly because it's very difficult to get the same group of people. So we do publish pass rates for JDs because we have that information from the law school and from the state on first-time takers that are JDs. If you go to the website for any state, you'll see many different pass rates. There's pass rates for first-time takers, pass rates, for example, in California, for students that went to non-ABA schools versus ABA schools versus unaccredited schools. And so there's LLMs are from so many different countries with so many different languages, and they can all start at different times, particularly on our program. So we offer LLMs the ability to start as early as a year in advance, anytime throughout that entire year. That's our extended program. The general program for the winter bar will start in August, and then the general program for the following summer bar can start any time between August and March of that year. So it's really impossible to pull together a pass rate for LLMs that is apples to apples, so to speak. However, we do have testimonials from students all over the world. We have a testimonial sheet. I often have students that are very happy to talk to LLMs about our program, like yourself. And you'll see that all of our word of mouth is really good for the LLM students, because as you mentioned, we really spend time helping the students the foreign trained attorneys in particular make a good schedule for themselves. We have a detailed schedule, of course, but the advising that we offer for the foreign trained attorneys, I think, is unmatched.
That's amazing. And just to be clear, I think I've said it before, but all the folks that I know that have passed the bar all use Themis. So all the LLM students that I know that have passed the bar all use Themis. I don't know any LLM student who has used something else to pass the bar. So I think that speaks highly, and that says a lot for the good work that Themis is doing and the support that it provides for LLM students. My next question would be, now this is a very open-ended question, I know, but
Yes.
how do you think LLM students can leverage the Themis bar service to pass the bar exam? Because I get a lot of I say a lot that yes, I use Themis to pass the bar, but then there's always the question of how do I use Themis to pass the bar exam as an LLM student? And I know you have a ton of experience, 10 years. So if you could, highlight a few things that LLM students should be looking out for folks who are currently, using the service, I think that would be very helpful.
Yes. So my number one thing, as I mentioned earlier, is time. So if I can talk to an LLM student when they start their LLM program, and by the way, it's not just for LLMs. When I say LLMs, I'm just used to being a teacher that the LLM students, but I'm talking about foreign trained attorneys who may not need an LLM degree or take a bar exam. If you're from a common law country, you don't need an LLM in order to take the bar exam in many, many states. So, and every state is different, but I would say time. So the first thing I want to do is meet with the student, or at least have a conversation about what their time is like. And a lot of LLMs think, oh, I have to worry about that at the end. I can't even think about that until I'm done with graduation. Well, if you wait until you're done with graduation, it's too late, because the bar exam, most students are doing a year LLM program, and then they will be done in May. In the case of the University of Washington, where you were, IJ, that they graduate super late. So they're not graduating until June. And the bar exam is in July. And it's nearly impossible to learn 15 subjects for the first time in 6 weeks, let alone 10 weeks, which is our regular JD program. And so really what I think Themis offers students first and foremost is the ability to take time over your school year to start learning in little pieces. And so you can start in the fall, and you're not doing more than maybe 2 hours a week, 1 hour a week if you have the year to review. If you do it a little bit closer and you start in the fall, maybe in October or November, that's our regular LLM program, you still have plenty of time to get through the majority of subjects, so that by the time you're graduated, you've listened to the lectures, you've heard the concepts, you've learned a lot of the legal terminology. You don't have a lot memorized, and nor would I say you should, because it's too far away. You're not going to remember anything. But you're building a foundation so that when you get to bar prep, then you can bring it up to the next level, and you're really on the same footing as a JD. So we would want you to try and watch anywhere between 3 and 7 subject lectures throughout the year. And I do have students who watch all the subject lectures before they get to the traditional bar prep period in the summer for the summer bar exam, for example. But even if you're through 3 or 4 of the double tested multi-state subjects that are pretty much tested in every state in the nation, you are way ahead of the game. And then you have general understanding that you can build upon for memorization when we get to that short period of time that you have to understand what you need to pass the bar exam. And so we call that early start. We start with just the 7 double tested subjects in our early start program. There are practice questions as well, although I don't think students should be doing practice questions early on, because you have to have the law memorized to do that. It is useful, however, to open up an essay and see what the layout is after you've listened to a lecture. Read the question, issue spot, see if you spot some of the issues. If you don't, who cares? You're starting early. And you're just kind of getting your feet wet, so to speak. So then if you listen to those lectures for anywhere from, like I said, 3 to 7 of the double tested subjects, before you hit bar prep, you have the basic understanding. You have time to read the substantive law outlines, which is what every LLM wants to do. Start with the outlines. And I have to try and plead with all of them to please not read through it and start memorizing there and do nothing else. But it does give you time to start building that foundation, as I mentioned. Next, I would say some of the features that I think are so amazing with the Themis LLM program are what we call our essay roadmaps. These are offered in the JD and the LLM program. They are very short, streamlined outlines that cover just the heavily tested areas. So I'm talking 6 pages for an entire subject of law, like civil procedure. And they will have tips throughout that we give you in gray boxes, telling you this is a heavily tested area that comes up with this other issue, or watch for this in this context. So it's more than just learning the law. It's learning the law through the window of writing an essay. And essay writing is the hardest part for most foreign trained attorneys or LLMs.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah, because you're not used to that type of testing. And that's I think the first thing, 2 features, the timing, and then also our early start program and the essay roadmaps. We also provide legal terminology lists. So for students that are coming from countries that do not have English as their primary language, terminology lists can help. They list terms in the order that those terms will appear in the lectures. So you can have that out and follow along with the lecture, and the term will be there that we know most foreign trained attorneys will not know. So it saves you time in that sense as well. You also get a dedicated LLM advisor. I'm one of them. As I mentioned, Carl and Brian are the other 2 in the early start phase. And then as you get into bar prep, you have a more concentrated team of advisors that are there for you. You can reach out to them through the portal. When you're in your bar review portal, through study strategies, you can ask specific questions. Our customer service is unparalleled. So we're really there for you every step of the way. We also offer, as I mentioned, that longer study period and completed lecture handout. So when you're watching those lectures, for students that really are struggling with language, we don't want you to have to stop and start and stop and start and stop and start in order to hear the words that you might need to fill in the lecture handout. So we will give you completed lecture handouts in the LLM Advantage program. And as you know, IJ, our lectures are different than the other companies' lectures because they're very short. They are not 3.5-hour lectures or longer that really take you through a lot of mundane concepts. Ours are very short and topic based. So our program was created for online consumption. It did not start in the classroom and become adapted to online. We were created for online, and that's why Themis is the way that it is. We know that people really only have about a 15-minute attention span. And so we're going to give you short topical lectures, and then we're going to give you questions about what you just heard after that. So you fill in the lecture handout as you listen. That keeps you engaged. You know it's only 15 minutes. And then you can, if you're confused, you can click on View Outline. It'll take you right to that part of the outline right there and then. So again, saving you a lot of time and making it a lot easier, I think, for foreign trained attorneys to get through some difficult concepts. I would say those are the main highlights. We also have a U.S. legal system workshop for those that are starting early on. And so I think that also will help explain a lot of the differences between common law and civil law for students that are not from common law countries.
Yeah, I think that's amazing. Thank you so much, Melissa. I think that is very comprehensive of, it just shows you that there are tons of features, there are tons of support. Something else I'll just flag again is I really enjoyed having an attorney who helped with grading my work. And I
Yes.
talked about that in one of my in the previous episodes, but I feel like that was uh, 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 that was very, very important and essential. And just getting that feedback on my essay, that personalized feedback, was extremely important and crucial to my passing the exam. So I just want to say, folks, that there are a ton of features that position you to pass the exam using Themis, but you never know if you don't try. So give it a shot.
Well, and I would say there's two other things that really set us apart from everyone else. So the grading is one. We offer 20 built-in graded essays.
That's a lot.
What does that mean? So every company will offer you graded essays, right? Some companies, actually, some of the newer companies only give like less than 5 essays to be graded, which is absurd. So be careful to ask how many graded essays you're getting. Most companies only build in 4 total. For our JDs, we have 8. And for our LLMs, we have 20. And so LLMs are doing, it's a 10-week program when we get into the regular bar prep period that JDs use as well. The JDs will have 1 essay a week. Those are turned in on Friday. They're graded over the weekend and turned back to the student by Tuesday. LLMs will have 2 a week. We will give unlimited graded essays as well. So if a student wants more, they just ask for more. The other companies will say they give you unlimited graded essays, which they will under certain criteria. But I think it's really hard for a student to figure out, what do I need? It's not just about turning in essays. It's about getting that graded feedback that you're talking about. So students have 20 graded essays in our LLM program, and they have a dedicated grader, meaning one person who's grading all 20 of those essays and can really be their own private grading tutor, where other companies give multiple graders. So you really don't get that continuity of grading and the feedback from your grader watching to make sure that you're increasing, and your grader who will talk to your advisor if they feel like you're really struggling. And then the second feature that really sets us apart is UWorld QBank. UWorld QBank, IJ, I don't think you had that when you took the bar. And this is an amazing, you had something similar to it, but it's now been leveled up even more. And so QBank is a bank of questions that you can use outside of the portal by topic. And so you can create your own exams when you know what your strengths and weaknesses are through our data analytics, and that are amazing. I'd love to show you those screenshots, but the data analytics mean our program will track all the multiple choice questions that you do and pull them back into a portal by topic. So it doesn't matter that you do sets of questions all mixed up by subject. You'll still get data at any given day on how many questions you've done. So let's say you've done 800 so far in the program, and it'll pull those questions back into under contracts. Here's all the 100 questions you've done, and here are your weak areas. There's 10 areas. These are the 3 out of the 10 that make you perform lower than you should be. Then you can go over to QBank and you can tell QBank, all right, I want to create my own test. I want to do a little extra practice. I've got an extra 30 minutes. So create a test for me with 34 questions based on only these 3 topic areas in contracts, or based on negligence and torts, First Amendment and constitutional law, and homicide in criminal law. And you can create a test just on those topic areas across multiple subjects. You don't have the ability to do that with any other bar prep course. So it allows you to really remediate where your weak areas are and drill until you know you have it.
Yeah, that's amazing. I don't think we had the same, it's in the same way that you've mentioned, but I think it's fantastic that you have the opportunity to zero in on your weaknesses and strengthen them using Themis. We are coming to the tail end of the interview, right? But I wanted to ask you, you've been doing this for a while, right? So I wanted to ask you, what are the mistakes you see students, and I think you've highlighted a few of them here,
Yeah.
like as we go through the content, as we had this conversation. But what are the mistakes students make when preparing for the bar exam? What are those mistakes?
So we've already talked about time, starting too late, right? Other mistakes I would say are students just checking boxes. So we have an adaptive calendar, which is another great feature of Themis. And what is that means that we have a program that's created for a certain time period, but it doesn't matter when you start, it will adapt to your start date and it will reconfigure all of your homework for you on a daily basis. So if you miss a day during the program, it will reconfigure your program at midnight and you never have to think about when you're doing what. You don't get an overdue list and all of that. So a great feature that we have, especially for LLMs. But a lot of students, I think, look at that directed study program, which is your daily study schedule, and they'll think, well, if I could just do all the things that are assigned, I'm going to pass the bar exam. And you're not. You still have to memorize the law. So just checking boxes to do tasks doesn't guarantee that you're going to pass. And we talk about this a lot in our lectures, in our workshops, in our messaging to the students, that it's important to do the work, but what's also equally as important is on the backside to memorize what you missed right after you miss it, because otherwise you're going to continue to make the same mistakes. So that's one of the things, is don't just check the boxes, do the work, memorize what you miss, and make sure that you're increasing your scores. And if you're not, that's when you reach out to your advisor to find out why. Because you've got to start increasing your scores in order to pass the bar exam. I would say another thing is looking for the magic bullet. So a lot of students, and particularly foreign trained attorneys, are always looking for, what other resources can I use? How can I do this better? And, this bar exam has been given for a very long time. We've all been doing this a very long time. And if there were a better way, we'd be giving it to you. So there is no magic way to do this that makes it easier for students. You still have to memorize the same law that everybody else has had to memorize. So just buying flashcards, for example, isn't going to ensure that you pass, and actually could hinder you because you're doing too much. You're adding too much in, where if you focused on the Themis system and using the Themis flashcards that go with our program, and using the essay roadmaps and all the things that I've mentioned, and there's much that I haven't mentioned, you'll be in good shape. It's kind of like what I say happens with a first-year law student when they go into the bookstore and they buy 10 books on the same subject. It'd be better if they just stuck with one, so that they really get deep into that and they can learn what they need to learn. And then I'd say the last thing that's a mistake is not spending time to memorize. So spending time just reading the outlines, the substantive law outlines, spending too much time there can, number one, eat up all your time, and number two, not spending time memorizing the heavily tested areas. And you know what that's like, because you get down to those 2 weeks before the bar exam and you've got a great foundation if you've done the work, and then you have to just sit and memorize what you haven't gotten to yet. And a lot of students, if we don't catch them or they don't reach out, will think that, like I said, just doing the questions is going to guarantee that they pass. So I would say one of my biggest tips is make sure that you spend a good amount of time getting organized so that you can memorize what you need to memorize for the bar exam. And we help you with that with those essay roadmaps.
That's fantastic. I think that's a great answer. Our last question, we're at the tail end of this, even though I know, I would love to go on and on. The last question would be, do you have any tips for LLM students who have just started the bar prep? Because I know there are folks, maybe not now, or maybe we'll be starting in August, in preparation for next year.
Yes.
Do you have any tips for LLM students who have just started the bar prep? I usually get that question of, I had just started, but it looks like there's so much content. Like, I don't know what to do. This is a lot, right? So what should they be doing in this early stages, right?
So, I would say, first of all, take a deep breath. You've got a long time. So if you're starting for the winter bar exam coming up in 2025 or even next summer, it seems massive because it's a new system and you don't understand that system yet. And that's what the Themis advising is for. So reach out to one of the Themis LLM advisors and ask for a meeting, or just email and say, what should I start with? And that we give you the introductory videos. A lot of students will skip that, and that is a big mistake. Because we tell you what to do. You don't have to reach out to an advisor to understand. You could just go to the introductory videos first, watch the introductory workshops, and there's very detailed messaging in the little envelope.
Very detailed.
Yes, every step we give you in your little envelope, which is what we call your communication center. So read through all that first, and then if you have questions, reach out to an advisor. Or ask through the study portal for under study strategies. There'll be the opportunity to talk to an advisor to give you more detailed information if you need it. So I would say really start with the subjects you're taking in law school. If you're taking any bar tested subjects while you're in your LLM program, use those lectures first, because that's going to help you for school. Right? And we have the essays and the multi-state questions that will also help you get through school. So start with those subjects. Know that you're not starting early to memorize now. You don't have to know it. You're just getting basic general understanding to lay that foundation that I was talking about. That's the first step. And so really the questions for students starting early is, how much time do you have each week to dedicate to this? You do not need full-time, nor would I recommend that you start full-time. I would recommend just a few hours a week to get through subjects you're taking in school. And then secondarily, don't feel like you have to memorize everything. Just go through, you can read the outlines in areas of confusion. Instead of reading them in entirety first, go to the lectures and then go back to the outlines just in areas that you're confused about, which takes less time. And then reach out to an advisor if you feel like you need more help moving forward with what you should study in what we call our early start period. So for those taking winter, we'll start in August, mid-August. Specifically, I've been told August 15th as of today. And then you'll do early start from August until November, which is those 7 double tested subjects. Then we'll move into the full bar prep program in November, and you'll from November through the February bar exam, you'll be going through all the subjects. And again, all the information that you need to figure out what to do is in your portal, or just a short step away and reaching out to an advisor.
I think that's a fantastic question. Now, the other side of that question, or the flip side, would be for folks when they get to the tail end of the preparation stage, right? So like we're 1 month in, a couple of weeks, 1 month or 6 weeks to writing the bar, what should they be focusing on at that point? What's important then?
That's a good question. So early start, as I mentioned, is just general understanding. Then when we get closer to the bar, that's really when we start doing the practice questions and learning the skills side of bar prep. So bar prep is twofold. You have to have enough law memorized to get the points, but you also have to have the skills associated with doing multi-state questions and essay questions and the performance test in most states. So we will start going through the substantive law lectures for the other subjects that are not the 7 double tested. On the UBE, there are 5 of them. In California, fewer. In other states, there could be more, like Nevada, where one of my jurisdictions. Other states have state-specific law, so we'll get more detailed in that area. But you just want to follow directed study and telling you what to do every day. And so a normal day would look like do a lecture, take the lecture notes, create your own. I recommend, and Themis recommends, creating your own short condensed version of that lecture handout by using those essay roadmaps to condense it into your own words. And then doing the practice questions and memorizing what you miss right after you miss it. And I think remembering that you're doing practice questions in bar prep, not to see if you're passing, but to discern where are my weak areas so that I can learn them before the bar is helpful. We also give you set goals throughout all of your essays and your multiple choice questions. And so if you're not meeting those set goals, again, that's when you want to reach out to somebody. But the set goals are low. You're going to start at 50% because you're just learning. You're not supposed to know it all before you do practice. And other than that, like I said, just to follow directed study and watch your goals and make sure that you're meeting those goals throughout.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Melissa. I really, really appreciate you. I think those are all the questions that we had. I've compiled. What I really asked you were questions that I've gotten over time from folks who have been using Themis or were interested in using Themis. So I think you have provided very, very helpful answers. So folks, please don't forget to check out the first episode where I talked about some key features that I used to pass the exam. And then please don't forget that as I've mentioned, Themis is one of the reasons why I believe Themis is a key partner in success, is because I feel like a lot of the programs are tailored to the foreign trained lawyer, right? And so that positions it. I feel like that's an advantage for LLM students to take advantage of. So thank you so much for joining this episode. Really, really appreciate you, Melissa. Thank you so much for your time and for the coaching. Really, I really feel like we've gotten sufficient coaching here just to help us through for folks who are currently, on the fence or currently using the bar prep service already. So thank you so much.
No, thank you so much for having me. And I would mention the students that want to reach out and get more information can just email LLM@themisbar.com. And that will go to all the 3 LLM advisors and we'll direct you from there.
Yeah, fantastic. I will put that in the description box. So please, folks, look out for that in the description box. And if you're interested in purchasing Themis, please, you can start off with asking your questions and sending that email to that email address, and then the rest of it will be open up to you. I guess that's the best way to say it. But have a wonderful rest of your day, everyone, and thank you so much for joining this episode.
Thank you.